Welcome, John Emmett over in the UK, and Steve Atkins in the Northeast here in Connecticut. Fritz Mueller down in steamy Miami. Well, it's that time of year, 5 days away from the start of the Northern Hemisphere summer. Hi, Ted Ryman down in Cape Town on the RSA, the Republic of South Africa. Stingray in overcast Seattle. Peter Taylor in New York City. Gordon Smith speaking in French from Denmark. A Brit in Denmark speaking in French, Julia.
This is an international program.
And he's very sophisticated. Thierry de Jong down in SoCal. Welcome to all of you. Rick Bannerow. Hello from Hellfire and Damnation Weather in Norotan, Connecticut. He's given us a nice video today from Norotan Yacht Club. And Pedro's walking on Curl this morning, not drinking it, Wanji Wanji, where it's Saturday morning at, 600 in Sydney. We're breaking heat records due to and humidity in Miami. Fritz Mueller saying. Don Lunabos, welcome everybody. Charles Butchart. Hello, Charles, as we get this one off the dock. Everybody, welcome to show number 627. It's Friday at 1 o'clock here, 1300 in San Francisco. My co-host, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, dear friend, coordinating producer, God knows what other titles, is here. Julia Vatican, of course, who's a longtime member, one of the original first-time female members of St. Francis Yacht Club. I'm also happily a member, but I credit myself to Balboa Yacht Club just so we are more... Ecumenical, more widespread with our clubs. We are, of course, live from Studio B, as usual, here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Speaking of yacht clubs, and it's a real yacht club. And by the way, Julie, before we go any further, those croutons that accused us at the Gstaad Yacht Club.
Yes.
I haven't shown you this. This just came in the mail with warmest regards from Gstaad. The club sent out their 25th. I mean, look at this. High-class stuff. Yeah. Their 25th anniversary, because we, as I told you, we formed this in 1988, got going at New Year's of that year of 88, 89. The story of a unique yacht club without waters, from virtual to recognition, and just a beautiful, soft-covered book with an editorial from the Commodore, from Enrico, and pictures and celebrating what we have achieved at the Gstaad Yacht Club in the last 25 years.
Isn't that great? And
it is a nice group of people who are, as most of you are, all of you probably, are just keen on the history and traditions of our sport. There was, between Christmas and New Year's in 1998 when we founded the club.
The founders.
There are the founders. You can see Bernie Ecclestone and Peter and his wife Erzberger. There's some crouton there who was living then in Hamburg, and a number of other great friends and fans. Marco Piccinini. I'm just looking to remind myself who else was there that night as we founded with a starboat. Peter Erzberger's Star was rigged in front of the Olden Hotel on the snowy downtown street in Gstaad, Switzerland.
Yes.
It's a real club, 25 years old, several hundred members. Very proud of it. Thank you for putting up with my little rant there.
It's fun to think about it, and it is a real club.
It is indeed, and we do ski yachting, we do regular yachting, and all sorts of other things that are quite fun and cool, Julia.
Yes, indeed.
Who's on here while we play our theme song? David James is across the bridge in Sausalito. A heat record sounds like a good idea.
You're right, David.
Still chilly here. Clark Chapin, Rick Lyon loves the opening sequence. Well, he filmed that, I think, or at least he sent it to me, Clark Chapin, from our home Portage Yacht Club in Michigan. And some storm-battered folks there in southeastern Michigan. Alan Long, it's cocktail hour in northeastern Ohio. Must be time for live. It was Sailing Illustrated as our theme song rolls down with this little cymbal crash there at the end. Welcome to this Friday show, 627. Lot going on, including some breaking news right here at the top of the show. I've got Clark Chapin standing by. When we get to the segment about the ocean race, just a few minutes ago, you see here on this graphic the RET for 11th Hour Racing. That was not there. It said SUS for, as the kids would say, sus, which means suspicious or
suspended.
But it used in the ocean race parlance, S is suspended, meaning they were trying to repair the boat to get back in the race, but they have changed this to RET. And I haven't seen anything on the website yet, but maybe Clark, who's been watching the website for us, will know if, in fact, now they've reported officially, formally, that 11th Hour Racing is retired. At least that's what it says here on the scoreboard online. So we'll go back to that in a minute. I want to thank very, very much our Fuzzy Rick Bannerow, who's on watching. He's also at a regatta shooting some video and stills at Norotan Yacht Club on the South Shore of Connecticut, North Shore of Long Island. Yes. Got to say that with the lockjaw. Long Island lockjaw, they call it in that part of the world. But thanks, Rick, for coming on the show Tuesday with all your photos. We got a lot of positive comments, and Rick said, he called me Wednesday morning, Julia, and he said that his inbox, email, text, and otherwise was filled with nice comments.
That's great.
About the show. And
well, there were all the way through. There were.
Well, there were indeed, and we had over 300 comments on that show.
Yeah,
on Tuesday.
More than that.
Yeah, and my favorite picture of all of his courses of our Fozy, Allie D. Nas. Several of you have asked, is that her real name? No, because she gets hit on, as Rick and I were talking about, so many Croutonic sailors and otherwise. She actually, that is a nom de plume, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And this is maybe her stage name, because she's up flying. She's a bow chick. She can do just about anything on a boat. She is a lawyer, a banker, even a power boater at this point, but a very fine sailor, a Fozy, and one of my favorite photos. She's a lot of fun, as you can see in that photo. Now, the other thing I just want to reprise from Rick's show when he was our guest on Tuesday is, what does this cross-section of images, there were 38, 40 some odd images that we showed, and he said, you have to shoot what is in front of you. Sometimes you have wind, sometimes you have great light, sometimes you have great action, sometimes you have pleasing angles and shapes. Other times, not so much. When you have poor light, be it low, flat, or too bright, then think in terms of black and white compositions that will be graphically pleasing, or push in closer to get the crew at work and not worry about the pretty sailboats and colorful spinnakers in the big picture. And if it's raining, well, he said, even the Rosenfelds, a famous father-son photography group from the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, I guess, even the Rosenfelds, Julia, head to the bar. Yeah. Now, I did fix, Julia, I don't know what we're celebrating today. Julia, where did this green memo come from?
Somebody sent a green memo, and we both, I know.
Well, I was in hair and makeup when you came down, and I didn't notice what you had on. And when I went to wardrobe, I just put on this green shirt. Yeah. And then we came in here, we said, well, we're celebrating maybe the start of, I don't know. What
summer almost.
So I put some Baileys in Julia's cocktail.
That'll help.
To help us. Jack Everett in Chattanooga. Pardon me, boys. I'm in a sing-song mood today. Good mood on a Friday. The Chattanooga Choo-Choo. Here in Sausalito, we talked about that. Halifax, hello, Morris Stevens, up in Nova Scotia, in the Maritimes of Canada. Mm-hmm. Oh, Canada, I am in a sing-song. Following from Davis Island, Florida, that's Philip Laffin. Hi, Philip. Hopefully 11th Hour gets back in the race. Well, Clark's got the team withdrew from this leg earlier today, as we've just reported. And we will have some analysis from Clark on that in a moment. Carlos Aviz, we haven't seen you on in a while. Carlos down in Brasilia.
Yes, nice to see him.
Down in Brazil, the capital of Brazil. Replying to Philip Laff, a new email says they are going to sail to Genoa eventually. Yeah, I know they wanted to try to do that, Steve Atkins, Commodore of the Madison, past Commodore of the Madison Beach Club in Connecticut, speaking of Connecticut. Homchick's here. Are you in the Bay Area, Paul? And Joe Cool, yep. Graham Sweeney, good evening, all. Graham, Julia. Just before we went to air, Sweeney sent something like, I don't know how many pictures, but he sent a pile of pictures, and I thumbed through them on the phone.
Yeah.
And a couple of them pretty good. I'll use them Tuesday. A couple of them pretty foul, Julia. I don't think you would have approved it.
I could sneak Peak.
Well, you can see them. I mean, you're a big girl. Alan Long in Cleveland. It's the first day of Cleveland Race Week today. One design weekend. Not enough J111, so we'll be doing next week for the offshore regatta. Yeah, it's a lot of regattas going on in the Northern Hemisphere at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, we do have Paul Homchick here in Soma. Do you know what Soma? Of course you do, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
Soma means
South of Market.
south of Market Street here in San Francisco. And it's like Soho in New York, which is south of, you know what street? Soho in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Peter Taylor knows. It's south of Houston. It looks like Houston,
I know.
but they say Houston in New York City.
Yeah.
James Frederick Bland, ATX. That means Austin, Texas. Hot, preheating the oven for summer. Yeah, I think that was good advice, though, from our fuzzy Fozy, Rick Bannerow. And by the way, you can reach him at ontheflyphoto.net. Yep, Stingray. We got Julia. Bailey's is best with a touch of Julia. Oh, wait. The sailing show with a drinking habit and a penchant for green shirts and green eyes as well. Let's go. Also, before we get into it, we got to recognize the passing of a dear friend of 40 plus years. One of the nicest people that's ever graced our fabulous sport, Sir James Gentleman Jim Hardy, OBEAASA, which is an Australian tribute. Born in 32, passed away here a couple days ago in hospital and surrounded by family and apparently peaceful and quiet. But just a fabulous man, fabulous human being. He of the Hardy wine family that his, I guess, grandfather started way back at the turn of the last century. But Jim himself, a renowned world champion yachtsman. He represented Australia at 2 Olympic Games. People forget this, both in 64 and in 68, Tokyo and Mexico City, respectively. He skippered 3 America's Cup challenges, 70, 74, and 80. And by the way, he also helped out with Alan Bond's successful Australia 2. He was a bit of a coach and mentor for the Australia 2 campaign, which won the Cup, broke New York Yacht Club's 132-year-old winning streak, the longest winning streak in sport. And they're celebrating that 1983 win later this year in September down in Perth and Freo.
Wouldn't that be fun?
And that would be fun.
Yeah.
And we're going to do something with that. I've been in touch. They've contacted me and said, would we like to do some things?
Oh, good.
And we shall. But back to Sir James. Not only those 3 America's Cups and helping with Bondi and JB and co., but he also competed in 4 Admirals Cup Ocean Racing Championships, representing, of course, Australia.
I got to know him through the 6 meters, the 25 years of 6 meters through the Royal Prince Albert.
You and your late husband followed the St. Francis 6-meter efforts, and you go down to Australia every chance you got.
Every year and a half. We went down for 26 years. I mean, the group, we went down or they came up. It was wonderful.
Excuse me, Julie. Say again.
We went there.
You were back and forth. They alternated every year and a half because of the hemispheres.
Yes, for the summer.
Australia would never have won the Cup with Jim or without Jim. Ed Worley. I think he means without Jim. Fritz Mueller, legend in my lifetime. You couldn't think of anything racing in Oz without his involvement. Good point, Fritz Mueller. Gentleman Jim, of course. And Warren Chaucer, speaking of Australians, great Australians, checking in from normally the Gold Coast, and I think in Oz, isn't he? David James from across the bridge, who subs sometimes for Julia here over there in her chair when we don't have Julia here, although you haven't missed one in a long time. David saying, it is interesting, when I was growing up, it was dangerous to go to Soma, meaning south of Market. Now it is again. Yeah, it is. Soma's not the nicest spot. We should talk about that for a sec, Julie, because there's so much ink now. People all around the world are sending us notes. Hey, we're hearing about the demise of San Francisco. The good news is that the Mayor Breed, seems to have gotten the
story.
Gotten religion at least, and is starting to come around on refunding the police, on law and order, and cracking down on crime. And by the way, yesterday they had the biggest fentanyl bust ever. There was, I don't know how many pounds, 6 pounds of fentanyl? Is that right?
187 people or something. I mean, it was big.
And that's enough to kill hundreds of people.
Yes.
This fentanyl stuff is nuts. But anyway, yeah, we do have some problems here. I'm cautiously optimistic the place is starting.
Yes. I am too.
You are? To turn around?
Yes, but I mean, it's slow, but it's almost too embarrassing to be on the other side. So
The
people
point
are,
of, excuse me, it's the, exactly. Hardy Family Wines, Fitzmuller is saying, and indeed, and not only a great sailor in the America's Cup, but one of the best ambassadors of the sport ever.
that's true too.
Mark Horton Reed, who knew him through the Cup years as well. And yes, the reason for bringing that whole thing up about San Francisco, which we have several times over the last probably several months, is this place has gone into what some people call a doom. What do they call it? A doom loop.
Yeah.
Meaning one thing leads to another, which then circles back, and it's a self-fulfilling negative circle of doom prophecy. But thank you for all your concern, because I do hear from Fozy, almost every day, hey, we saw this article, that article about your Croutonic city, and it is Croutonic, and of course it is Croutonic because it's so beautiful, and it so has been over the last 3 decades with Silicon Valley and innovation and tech, and now it's in this spiral of crime and crapping. Okay, enough.
But that's the city, and we forget that there is a whole generation. I mean, another 2 million people living
in the Bay Area, in the greater Bay Area. That's true. That's fair enough. But, the city's still the city, and we live in the city.
We do.
We have private security.
Mm-hmm.
We have, in the Spanish sense of the word, we have a vigilante, private security guy,
We
whom
do.
you've hired.
Yep.
Along with 60 or 70 other people. So when the police can't be counted on, and it's not the police fault, it's the politicians. And there is a guy who polices from 8 at night till 8 in the morning, and he has a couple colleagues and an old cop car. He's a former cop.
Yep.
Goes around the marina. Just so if you interview our croutons and think about breaking in here to the Beach Street Yacht Club, and
Gotcha.
the guy will get you. One time I came home from the yacht club and had a late night over there and left the garage door open for about 5 minutes. I hadn't even, I'd come upstairs, was not even yet brushing my teeth. And I said, I don't think I pushed the button. He was knocking on the door. Are you okay? Everybody okay? I've checked your garage. Nobody's in your garage. But there's people breaking into garages. Yeah. Why are we talking about this? We've gone from Gentleman Jim and what a fabulous guy he is.
Yes.
To telling you how much we appreciate your concern, right?
I guess so.
To what's going on. Yeah. Julia, do you know what's the 16th of June, what's being celebrated on a world, international, global basis today?
It's Juneteenth?
No, that's Monday.
That's Monday.
June 19th. Now, this is in my favorite country. Do you recognize that? It's a clue. Starts with a T. Those are tapas.
Oh, tapas, yeah.
Enjoy an array of small dishes or appetizers in place of a big meal in order to thank the country of España for introducing the world to tapas. And my wife and I and Meg, our daughter, having lived in Spain for more than 8 years, have come to love that place and the people and the wine and especially the food. We really enjoyed the paella and everything else. And we celebrate with you and anyone else who's celebrating on World Tapas Day. That look good?
Yes.
A little gazpacho?
Should make some.
Mussels.
Paella.
Rabbit. Viva España. And, you walk into any bar in Spain, and the first thing that comes out are the almonds, salted almonds, and some little things on the side, little cheese. And fantastic. What a great country. España. Viva España. This race has turned into a horror show, especially for 11th hour racing. As you probably all know, they started on Thursday yesterday, both the fleets, both the IMOCA and the VO65s, and are now headed out going through the English Channel, maybe beyond. But this collision I'll show it to you now.
Now we can
if
see
you
the
haven't
two
seen
boats
it.
clear of each other. This was the moment.
Guyot on port
11th Hour
tack.
Racing Team realizing that they needed to turn, but ultimately being stuck in that position. And Guyot Environment Team Europe with the bear away, it all happening a little bit too late to actually clear the stern of the American boat. Now, there is an enormous impact on what this could mean for the race, but for the moment, let us just absorb exactly what has happened here and keep an eye on the sailors. It seems like everybody on board was out of the way of the collision, and the boats still look relatively seaworthy, but what a collision here, Dee. And
The commentary
at the end
was
of the day,
just
that was only by what,
so
half a meter, just that
disappointing.
last split
He
second
thought
of bearing
it
away from
sounded like
Guyot.
he
It
thought
wasn't there.
11th Hour Racing was supposed to keep clear. But let's back up. Let's go all the way back to the start of the race. Have a look in.
Start of leg 7 of the Ocean Race 2023 live.
We're going to run the first 5 or so minutes of this because that, as Ed Worley says, will not buff out.
The 14th edition of the Ocean Race. Months of racing, dismasting, nosedives, broken sails, victory against the odds. But now it's the chance for points and the final opportunity to take the lead as we head off to the grand finale in Geneva, Italy. But here in The Hague, the wind today is good. Flat water and sunshine also in the mix, and this makes today a great day to head offshore.
Well, the departure that we're very familiar with these days as we head out to the beach just off The Hague here, we're going to have a reaching start. So it's about crossing that line at peak speed, and it's a left-hand turn around the course. We head out to Mark 1. We're going to do a jibe between Mark 1 and Mark 2, reach back, tack upwind round group 4 through the start line. We're looking for 2 laps. We go through the start line, and then Mark 1 and 2 become our leaving gate as we head off to Geneva.
Yeah, so like the import race, I think keep it as simple as possible, clear air, and yeah, we can have a good race.
Well, 5 boats, 5 Amoccas now pushing into the line with 30 seconds to go. Team Milizia, they wanted that windward position on the left-hand side of your picture, and they've got it. Team Holcim PRB are all the way to leeward, but along with Guyot Environment Team Europe, as the pin buoy comes into view, they are both slowing down. They are closest to the line here. The line on the right-hand side between the white mark with the blue bottom and the blue hull of the committee boat. This is now the final charge here, and I think our Amoccas are going to be off this line. Everyone holding back. 11th Hour Racing Team accelerating now as they cross the line as the gun fires. I think the Americans certainly had the best of the speed, but Team Milizia up to the windward side, and Team Holcim PRB doing a good job down at the pin end. Once again, Dee, it is going to come down to the drag race for the next 30 seconds and the fight for clear air. Guyot Environment Team Europe, they've lost the battle for the front line. They're going to be rounding second, third, perhaps fourth. But Team Holcim PRB, I cannot believe the difference here, Sarah. I mean, was there a debrief, or was there something that you just forgot to pull? Because whatever it was, you've banished that demon.
And actually, you can see all their bows are lifted out the water, really steady flight. There's flat water is just great conditions for these boats to show off, and we're seeing them at their best in quite marginal foiling conditions. So they have a lot of decision making going on, and Charlie will be slightly distracted as he's driving. For Holcim PRB, he's clear ahead. He can just concentrate on sailing the boat fast and where he wants to go. So he is now dictating this race.
They are blasting along here, speed steady over 20 knots. Team Holcim PRB, I think they have established themselves in the lead with 11th Hour Racing Team in second, Team Milizia in third.
She was boat lengths and she was calling that, but she's also hanging on and trying to control their rounding and try and just calm everything down so they're making it a clear approach. So they're all bearing away now. Slight slowdown as they bear away because they're not changing sails, they're just easing the sheet. So everyone's closing in behind. We're seeing Team Milizia close in as well as they come round. And then they've all got to make this critical jibe, time this jibe so they can round this mark clean and get back up to boat speed and foiling back on the reach.
And this is the first bit of vulnerability for the leaders, or indeed all the boats in front. Guyot Environment Team Europe, if they can get a good jibe here, they get a chance to attack. And for Team Holcim PRB out in the lead, they're trying to hold on to it as Biotum come round a good way back after only just that first long reach in 5th place.
We've got
Team Holcim PRB now round the second mark, still in 1st place. 11th Hour Racing Team tried to get on the inside, but look at who is getting on the inside. Guyot Environment Team Europe managed to come round. Benjamin Dutroux found the speed to go low. As you were saying, Dee, he managed to keep a bit of speed in that, and now he has jibed to be really attacking the breeze of Team Milizia. I don't see that many place changes, but if we do, it is at at this jibe and it is at the tack. These are the vulnerabilities. And Team Militia, I thought they were looking really solid in third place, but they obviously just got that angle a little bit wrong. Guyot Environment, Team Europe have fully capitalized on it, and now they are off on that reach. And I could just hear the skipper, Benjamin Dutroux, saying, right, let's go. And I love the fact, the idea that the energy that this team has built up over the last few days is just powering them on. Team Holston PRB still in the lead, and it's going to be a sharp left-hand turn to take this boat upwind. And comparing the tracks of 11th Hour Racing Team, Team Holston PRB and Guyot Environment Team Europe, the leaders, Team Holston PRB, sailed very low out of that mark. Guyot Environment Team Europe, look at the gain here for the European team. Benjamin Dutroux is about to tack, and if he was to tack now, by my idea, I think he'd lay.
I know, I'm almost willing him to go and make that gap. And like, but he's putting the pressure on 11th Hour. He's forced them to tack away.
Oh, he has not seen 11th Hour Racing Team there. Guyot Environment Team Europe did not see that. 11th Hour Racing Team were on starboard, and I think we have got a collision here between the two boats. Guyot Environment Team Europe was sailing upwind. 11th Hour Racing Team were upwind as well on starboard tack. The two boats came together, the bow of Guyot Environment Team Europe striking the stern of 11th Hour Racing Team. I saw the Americans alter course at the last moment when they realized that Benjamin Dutroux was holding course. The rules essentially meaning that Guyot Environment Team Europe should have been the one to give way, but that wasn't happening, and now we can see the two boats clear of each other. This was the moment. 11th Hour Racing Team realizing that they needed to turn, but ultimately being stuck in that position, and Guyot Environment Team Europe with the bear away, it all happening a little bit too late to actually clear the stern of the American boat. Now, there is an enormous impact on what this could mean for the race, but for the moment, let us just absorb exactly what has happened here and keep an eye on the sailors. It seems like everybody on board was out of the way of the collision, and the boats still look relatively seaworthy. But what a collision here, Dee.
The interesting thing is this damage now on the side, so close to the chain plate of that runner that holds the rig up, and that is a hole in the boat that they are not racing anymore.
That is a hole in the boat, and they're not racing anymore. So there you go, the first few minutes of that race yesterday off Den Haag, off the Hague. And now we're going to take you to some onboard video from 11th Hour Racing, and watch how close Charlie Enright comes to getting speared. He's shouting starboard. I don't know what he thought he was doing, pushing the bow off him. I'm amazed he stayed there. He's the first thing he does is, everybody okay? Everybody okay? And you see there's a boat coming at them now. A port tack boat. Look at this. Team Militia. Thank God didn't hit him. That Team Militia, wasn't it?
I think so, but I don't know for sure.
I think he said fudge there when he slammed the deck and they beeped it.
Come down. Here, come down. Back in 3, 2, 1. Turning here. That's it. You did it in my name? Yep. 3, 2, 1.
That's a replay. That's after they tacked onto starboard tack. And a replay of the collision.
Everyone okay? Yeah, we're happy. Everyone okay? Yes. Okay, let's spell this. Okay.
Okay.
Let's
Try and get the boat under control.
There's another boat. Yeah, okay, we're good.
Now they're talking about the other boat coming at them.
Yeah.
Okay. No, you You've got biotherm again after that, okay? Okay, no till extension. Okay, pilots on. My boat. Copy.
Yeah, clear on these guys. Got biotherm coming round.
Yeah.
That's just
What we're going to do.
Yeah, you can see how close it is.
Can you see? Let's tack the boat. Yep. Let's tack the boat. Okay, run her off. Yep. Run her off. Stand by your boat. My boat. Wait, don't go. I got it. Go. You've got biotherm. I'm going to stand on the pilot to make clear biotherm. Okay, no problem. Okay.
Okay, well, 11th hour, here's a replay of it. We've seen this enough times, I think, but Guyot just, either they didn't see them, and it's not like 11th hour had just tacked. They'd been on the tack for 20, 25 seconds, and the jury saw it. There's the jury right behind them with the flag, and they immediately blacked flag, almost immediately blacked flag, which means disqualifies them from further racing. That is Guyot. And these guys get back to the dock. Charlie is, and the rest of the gang, as you can well imagine, are not amused.
no. Oh, after.
And Jack Everett says the main rule in boating is that it was violated, that you have to at all times keep a proper lookout. Exactly. Port starboard, then collision was the result of that, and it was port starboard. And of course, starboard tack has to keep right away. And I have a feeling that maybe 11th hour racing wasn't also looking quite. I mean, you saw Charlie.
direction.
Well, Charlie. Well, he was down on the leeward side, but I would have, Charlie, you would have thought would come head to wind. He didn't want to go behind him because he expects the other boat to go behind him. Listen, man.
Oh, honestly, absolutely lost for words. We tacked on our ley line, sailing on starboard for 20, 30 seconds. Charlie was screaming starboard at Guyot, and they just didn't respond. Clearly not looking or didn't see us or something. And the net result is they put their boat firmly in the side of ours, and the bowsprit actually went right through the boat and came out on the inside. So honestly, we're really, really lucky that nobody got hurt. Charlie was sitting just there in the hatch, so thankfully everyone's okay.
I know it's very fast to do an assessment, but what's the early assessment? What's the plan now?
Basically, we're just trying to get everything together right now. Personally, I refuse to admit this is over. This obviously, we'd rather be out there leading the race on the water and trying to win it on the water, but at this stage of the game, I think it's just, right now it's our priority to find out what our options are, how long this might take to repair, or what the redress implications are, and we'll do that as a team now and
Okay,
move forward.
have we had enough of that? So this is, again, from yesterday, and a lot has transpired since, but just looking at some of the comments, Steve Atkins is, right, female announcer was spot on, Steve, you're absolutely right. The male was a crouton, no doubt, and thank God, as Gordon Smith was saying, that was almost a human tragedy. I mean, Julia, that was astonishing. Okay, so enough of this video. There's some dockside stuff. Here's some more photos released by the Ocean Race. I put these on my Facebook page yesterday afternoon and evening, right after it came out. Thanks to several of you who sent me the links yourselves. This is 11th hour getting back toward the dock now, and you can see how badly damaged. I mean, they've been holed. There's no way of saying it otherwise. It's just damn lucky that Charlie didn't get speared.
Yes.
11th hour racing, taking that damage back at the dock, and Benjamin Dutroux was very, very, by all press accounts and otherwise, even 11th hour racing was very apologetic, as you would be. And this morning, 11th hour put out a release. I excerpt from it now. Quote, "The most important thing is that everyone on their boat and on our boat is okay," Enright, Charlie Enright, said on the dock not long after the collision. Quote, "Where we go from here is uncertain. It's life, it's racing. There's nothing we would have done differently, and accidents happen." I think Charlie would try to go ahead to win sooner had he known that those croutons were not going to duck. I mean, but to be fair, the other problem with that is that if you're on starboard tack crossing ahead of a boat that is, you expect is going to go astern of you, and if you start to go head to wind, you're actually throwing your stern at that port tack boat's bow. So to be fair, you just, as your starboard tack boat, you sort of want to just keep going, keep on trucking, and hope that the port tack boat does either tack early or does duck early. Okay, the press release goes on. His team is operating on 2 tracks at the moment, assessing repair options that could see them get back on the water, heading for Genova, in the coming days, while at the same time working within the racing rules of sailing and the rules of the ocean race to consider how redress may apply. The international jury may award points to a team unable to race competitively following an incident caused by another competitor. Yeah, that's true. So it's the redress is clearly available. We're going to have Clark Chapin, who's standing by phone, is going to come on in a minute and give us our FOSI and rules expert, race management expert, Clark Chapin. So but we now know they've retired. We saw that at the top of the show. We showed you that little blurb of RET instead of SUS, which it had been on the scoreboard. So let's look at the race report that came out this morning, 3 hours ago now, and this summarizes what is going on, at least in this incident, but also in the rest of the ocean race. The 7th and final leg of the ocean race started in dramatic fashion yesterday as overall leaders, 11th Hour Racing Team, badly damaged their boat. That boat was badly damaged by Gio. Both boats returned to the harbor where the teams will assess damage and explore options. Currently, Gio Environment have retired. Team Wholesome PRB made a strong start to the race and managed to get in front straight from the gun. Actually, they were passed and then have retaken the lead last I looked.
A little bit faster than Malizia, so we were blocked, and so we tried to overlap them windward, but they start to go more windward, so it was not a good idea. So at the end we just do a little jibe that the routing also saved this.
Largely unaware of the chaos unfolding behind them, the 3 remaining boats headed south into the English Channel.
Full on for the start, a bit less wind than we had for the import race. There's still enough to be ripping around on the J2. Some pretty close action. 2 of the boats unfortunately ended up colliding with port and starboard, and they had to pull back in, so we're really sorry to see that.
A challenging night for the fleet as they navigate one of the busiest and most complex shipping channels in the world. You saw all the exclusion zones that we showed you on the chart Tuesday that Clark prepared.
Yes.
A subdued mood across the fleet today. Some easy sailing for the next 24 hours as they go down the coast of France. That's the IMOCA. And I really haven't been covering much of this VO65, but the Sprint Cup fleet were able to get away clean and begin the complex first part of the leg.
So we had a nice start in Scheveningen, lots of action. Went through the gate as 3rd, so that's quite good. We're sailing now downwind, quite close to Ramsgate in the UK. All the boats are very close together.
As we've seen many times with the VO65s, all teams stayed close overnight. No team will want to break from the pack this early. Watch it on Eurosport, on and off.
And we are jibing down a fairly narrow corridor of exclusion zones in the form of traffic separation schemes and wind farms. There's also shipping around and sandbanks, so it's quite full on really. So it's quite complicated, but there's a lot of place changing, so it's exciting.
Wind Whisper racing team currently lead. They've been leading the whole series. The experienced team quickly got into the groove.
So here we are. We've achieved the goal, getting out. Nothing broken and straight line sailing now.
So it shows a bit more southerly routing than the other boat just after leaving The Hague, and it looks like it paid with the lift. We were in a little bit stronger position than the other guys, so that's how we 1 mile ahead. Of course, boat speed also.
Okay, so that's the report from a couple hours ago issued by the office in Alicante for the ocean race. Some more pictures here. As they were working in 6-hour shifts. I assume they've belayed that now, but they were working everybody, the sailing team, the shore team, and probably everybody else on shore in and around that had any expertise trying to help them repair. Yeah, you got it. It's a huge hole, obviously, by the time you cut away the detritus and try to find something to patch over it. But there was, I mean, I talked to several of you and talked to Clark yesterday afternoon about this time. I talked to Clark when I was down getting my Thursday coffee at the roastery, Julia.
Yeah.
And Clark and I both said there's no way they're going to get that repaired, and it's all up to the jury now as whether they get redress. As several of David James and others have suggested, well, they're going to get average points or something, right? So 11th Hour put this release out before we had heard. This was just before they retired. 11th Hour Racing team working around the clock to repair the boat after retiring from Leg 7. So I beg your pardon. So they had retired, but I'm not sure they had actually pulled out of the race. I think retiring might have been the wrong term of art in their headline, because this is from a couple, 3 hours ago now.
Because they were planning to come back.
11th Hour, exactly, Julia. 11th Hour Racing Team has retired from Leg 7 of the Ocean Race due to substantial damage caused by a collision with a competitor minutes after the start. Shore team working around the clock to repair a large hole in aft section of the hull. Request for redress has been submitted to the World Sailing International jury. Ambition remains to complete the lap of the planet and sail the boat to Genoa. So I guess what that meant is they had, in fact, when they issued this release, they had, in fact, retired, meaning they were no longer intending to compete for this final leg of the race, but they still wanted to get the boat ready, get it sailed over to Genoa for, obvious sponsor visibility,
right,
for VIP events. They also, remember, have an inshore race when they get over there to Genoa. They have another inshore race. And the inshore race is, if for some reason they end up tied with Wholesome PRB, that's the inshore races that will determine the winner, breaks the time. Now, we've been talking about Clark Chapin, our super Fozy, who's a past commodore of my little club back in Michigan. Known Clark most of my adult, if not more, life, probably since I was a teen. And here he is sailing some years ago with his late great father on the right, Clark in the middle, and his son Bill Chapin, who lives here in the Bay Area actually now, Julia. I've used this picture before. It's just a fabulous photo on our little lake there. Northwest of Ann Arbor, Clark Chapin he's our race management and rules guru. He wrote this email saying, Tom, from a rules standpoint, I've reviewed the sailing instructions. There didn't appear to be anything that significantly modified Rule 62, which is the redress rule in the Racing Rules of Sailing, and says a request for redress or a protest committee's decision to consider redress shall be based on a claim or possibility that a boat's score or place in a race or series has been or may be, through no fault of her own, made significantly worse by score or place in her, an improper action or omission of the race committee, a screw up by the race committee, which this was not. B, an injury or physical damage because of the actions of a boat that was breaking a rule of Part 2, which clearly Geo Environment was, and took an appropriate penalty or was penalized, or of a vessel not racing that was required to keep clear or as determined to be at fault under the international rules for preventing collisions at sea, or a government right-of-way rule. So, if some tugboat ran into you or a fishing boat. Giving help, if that happens, you can get redress for giving help, and you can get redress for an action of another boat or crew member or support person of that boat that resulted in a penalty, yada, yada. Okay, so those are the circumstances, and Clark has highlighted in red, clause B there, that is the salient point. Clark saying, I see in press reports that the umpire's black flag Geo Environment, that's no surprise. Black flag means that they are disqualified without further hearing. But it means that 62.1B, the red that we just highlighted in red, has been satisfied. So the protest or redress deadline depends upon when a boat that has suspended racing, which they had yesterday when Clark wrote this, decides not to continue. So the clock is still ticking on that. Now, presumably it's no longer ticking because they have apparently retired and had done so some 3 hours ago. With any luck now, I've got Clark Chapin on the other end of our line. He's on by phone from Plymouth, Michigan. Clark, you there?
I can hear you.
Commodore, what's your latest feeling about all this?
Well, first of all, I went back and reviewed particularly the onboard the video, and my opinion it differs a bit from yours. I mean, I went through and tracked when everything happened, or even from Simon, is that for the onboard video at 3 seconds into the video is when 11th Hour Racing was close hauled. And then 11 seconds later at 14 seconds is when Charlie first hailed, and he kept hailing. But only 2 seconds later at 16 seconds, he started to alter his course. And Guillot only altered course at about 19 seconds, and the collision occurred about 1 second later at 20 seconds. He fended them off the bow pulpit at about 28 seconds, and of course immediately asked if everybody was okay, and then avoided Malizia at 59 seconds into the video. The other thing is that he was on the leeward side and had a clear view of Guillot, but Guillot's skipper, from some of the snips of video that I've seen, was on the windward side and really had no clear view to leeward at all. And I think that was part of it. Well, they should have kept a lookout, but the helmsman couldn't see until it was very, very, probably his first warning is when the bow of 11th Hour started appearing in front of his jib. So as I've watched that, and then again Charlie headed up in an attempt to avoid the collision, and I think that's a reasonable thing to do. So I believe he meets the requirement in the redress rule about being no fault of their own. And then the other thing is that Guillot has to be penalized or retire or take a penalty, and she has done that. So that requirement is met. So it seems to me that the requirements for redress have been met by 11th Hour Racing. Then the question becomes what redress to grant. And one of the things they teach you in judges school when you're dealing with redress is one of the things you ask the party requesting redress is, what redress would you like? And at this point in an event where it's the last leg of 7, it's pretty clear that what I would do if I was Charlie would be to request average points for the other legs. That's a little complicated in this case because there was a scoring gate in leg 3, and then there was also the double pointing leg 5. But I went through the math in a couple of different ways, and that and then whether you round to the nearest half point or the nearest point or whatever, and that gives 11th Hour Racing either 4 or 4.5 points, which would give them a 37 as a total. If for some reason the jury only awarded them 3 points, that would put them on 36. And so if Wholesome wins this leg, then that would also give them 36 points. And in that case, they would win on the tie break because of their lead in the in-port racing.
That is that 11th Hour would win on the tie break because of their lead. Yep. I'm going to show you those scores in a moment to show those to everybody. Please carry on.
And of course, the other thing is that they have filed a request for redress, as you said, so they've met the timing requirements for when to file that. My overall opinion is that I would be surprised if they are awarded less than average points, which would be 4 or 4.5 points, which should give them the prize for the
outright.
The race itself.
That would give them the prize outright if they get 4 to 4.5 points as an average score, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's spot on, Clark, and I'm not sure that you and I disagree on anything except maybe the alteration of course up or down and when, but you studied the video and we'll go with your analysis. I'm sure it's spot on, and we appreciate it very much. I agree with you, Clark. Here's one other point that you made yesterday when we talked about this yesterday afternoon, is that when there's a redress hearing, not only does the jury take evidence from the two parties involved, the boat that got damaged and the boat that did the damage, but what?
They have to consider and make parties to the hearing the other boats that are likely to gain or lose from the decision.
Exactly.
Which means you can't have this hearing in a phone booth. You're going to need a room of some size.
Well, they could, however, as I pointed out to you yesterday, they could say, hey, guys, we're going to do this by radio because we want to get this over and done with, and you're going to be party to the hearing. And there may be some provision that allows them to do that. And you made the point that yesterday you said, well, if I were Wholesome PRB, what?
Yeah, I'd want to be present at the hearing, and I'm concentrating on sailing the boat.
Exactly.
You know.
So you think this hearing's not going to happen by radio? You think it'll happen in Genoa when they all get there, one way or another?
Yeah, and of course, one way or the other. I'm sure they would like to be able to give the prize away in Genoa. So I don't know what they end up doing is, and of course.
Well, I don't think, Clark. I don't think that's a problem because. Assuming that Charlie and Co get over there by one way or another, they'll get over there to Genoa, and the boats will cross the line, and they'll say, "Well, here's the leg winner," if it's Wholesome PRB or Malizia or whomever, and they'll still have the champagne spray and hold up the banner and take some pictures and put them on the stage, and that's all fine. But everybody knows, and they will say, "Well, this is all provisional, pending a redress hearing that we now have to have." And they should be able to do that redress hearing in about, a couple, 3 hours, right? It's not going to take a long time to do that.
I think that the international jury has already started filling out the form, so.
Exactly.
And the import race, I think, is scheduled for July 1st or July 2nd.
I think it's the 1st,
so
right?
That's still a pretty tight deadline for if Charlie's going to sail on the boat when it completes the journey, that makes it pretty tight for him to be there. On the other hand, he doesn't have to be their representative at the redress hearing.
Exactly.
They probably got somebody that could stand in for him while he's bringing the boat around.
Well, I don't think he will bring the boat around. I think he'll get over there, and the shore team or whomever will do that. And Charlie's going to get over there and be ready to deal. I would if I were him, but who knows? Maybe he wants to sail across, but Clark, they're not going to get that boat fixed anytime soon. Look at it this way. Let's say they fix it, and they don't fix it very well. They haven't had time to do all of the testing and and then any minor thing happens. They run into a whale. God forbid.
Or could choose their rudder off.
Or anything. It doesn't
right.
even have to happen. They just hit some big waves, and any minor thing happens, and now you have a huge liability problem. They're not going to, even sailing that boat over there is an issue, in my opinion. But we'll see. Gordon Smith saying they could use FaceTime. Every boat is using it to communicate with their teams already. It uses satellite transceivers. Yeah, I wouldn't rule that out, Gordon. Clark and I discuss that, and Clark, they may not have the right, that is the Wholesome PRB and Malizia, whomever, to demand that it be done at the end of the race. The race committee, the jury may have the right in the paperwork to do that themselves, to do it rather by electronic means in the meantime. So we shall see. Anything else, Clark?
Oh yeah, I think they can clearly do that. It's the jury's job to schedule the hearing, and the job of the parties to the hearing to make an attempt to participate or to have a representative participate.
Yeah.
They have to make an effort to do that, and the jury can balance the needs of how to do that. Possibly they could do it, but I've really never heard of a redress hearing occurring when a party to the hearing is a boat that's still racing.
Well, this is a different kettle of fish. This is the ocean race, and this is a different time. Who pays the damages, Clark? Ed Worley is asking.
The jury will not decide who pays the damages. The purpose of the racing rules is to assign to enforce the racing rules, and I don't think the there are some liability and insurance requirements for this race, but I'm not sure what they say about liability for damages.
And the question that Gordon Smith is asking is Guillot still racing? No, Guillot's at the dock. They're done. They've been disqualified, and whether they sail across or not is another issue. But I don't see how they're damaged.
They were black flagged and they retired, so
Right.
they're
Exactly.
they're stick a fork in them. They're done.
Yeah, but whether they sail the boat over there or not is another issue, I suppose. Clark, anything else?
No, that's about it from here. That's my take on it anyway, based on my reading of the sailing instructions and the sailing instructions, the press releases, and the racing rules of sailing.
Copy. Thank you very much. As David James is saying, the insurance company, Boomer Bland, James Frederick Bland, saying the same thing. Fault has already been assigned. The insurance companies can fight it out. David James saying the same thing. The insurance companies often, however, not always, defer to the decision to the protest committee. Correct, David. And Andrew Pindar, it wouldn't be racing from what I read. Pretty certain they have retired from the leg. They are delivering to be there at the finale. They are delivering. Okay, they're delivering the boat. That makes sense. Andrew would know because of his company, GAC Pindar, GAC Pindar, is helping with the logistics of that race.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Sail GP is getting fired up on YouTube. That's a live stream of the Sail GP television. They're in commercial break right now, so we'll stick with this. I'll just nip into that from time to time, but we'll give you now the standings as Clark was referring to it. Clark, I'll let you go. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Clark. So that's Clark Chapin by phone, obviously, from Plymouth, Michigan, where he is preparing for his weekend and hopefully a little bit of racing there at our home club, Portage Yacht Club. And his expert analysis, much appreciated, and I think spot on. This is the overall results. 11th Hour Racing, just as Clark said, 2 points ahead of Team Wholesome PRB. Malizia is really out of it. Now, there's no chance for them to win this. Unless for some reason 11th Hour Racing got disqualified and then Team Wholesome PRB and Team Malizia were fighting it out. But I don't see how that's going to happen. I agree completely with Clark. The jury, there will be hell to be paid if the jury doesn't award them some level of suitable redress, in my never so humble opinion. Now, this is the import racing results, the leaderboard, and there's one more to go. And I think Clark's right. I think it's on the 1st of July. In obviously Genoa. And 11th Hour leads that by quite a bit, especially with respect to Wholesome PRB, who are down there in 4th place on 15 points. Mm-hmm. So if that ends up being the tiebreak, there's no way that is going to change, even if Wholesome wins the inshore race and 11th Hour were somehow to get there and race in it and finish last. There's just not enough points to be had. So I think, and I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'd probably bet the ranch on it. I think 11th Hour Racing has already won the 2022-2023 edition of the Ocean Race. That's my guess.
Sounds like it, but it's sad that it had, for everybody, that it had to be end that way.
Absolutely. And you're so nice. You always think of that angle and what's exactly. Rick Manero saying, thanks, Clark Chapin. Chris Exley, yeah, it's the real thing today. Thank you, Clark, Alan Long, lots of other. This is not practice racing today at Sail GP. This is the start of racing. It's a Friday, Saturday event here in this hemisphere. It's Saturday, Sunday down under, of course. So that's why I think they're running the racing on Friday and Saturday. They're minute 20. You can go over to it. I don't want to get a copyright strike, but you can go over to it yourselves as they are getting ready to start their first racing, which is scheduled to start at the top of the hour. 1600 in Chicago, and it's 1400 here. We're 2 hours behind them. This was the leaderboard a couple hours ago. Somebody can go check it for me, please. But you can see Wholesome PRB has a touch of a lead down there over Biotherm, who were in second, 1.9 nautical miles, and Malizia back at 6.3. And the other two teams now, 11th Hour and Guillot, having being shown as retired, as we told you at the top of the show. And probably the definitional photo of the whole day is what I'm using as our transition photo, where poor old Benjamin. I mean, poor old. I mean, how Crutonic, the Crutonic, but also obviously distraught Benjamin Dutrow, the skipper of Guyot, there greeting Charlie, who does not look amused, and I don't blame him.
No.
I just astonished that Charlie hung it out there, hung out
Yes.
there.
Didn't get chopped himself.
Well, and maybe he knew that there was enough distance between the gunnel of the boat
and he was determined to deflect it, and he did eventually.
Well, you're not going to do, and those kinds of loads, you're not going to deflect anything.
Well,
you stick your hand out. It's like when I push you in your chair and you start sticking your hands out in the elevator. I said, Julia, keep your hand in your lap before I break your hand. You grabbing a hold of something. It's unbelievable. It's the same. No criticism of you or anybody else. It's the same human reaction. You think Charlie's a small boat sailor and he thinks maybe I can push their bow off. You're not going to push the bow.
Well, he did.
No, he didn't.
At the end.
No, he didn't. He didn't push they came apart. With that was all. Look at the excitement in Chicago as they're getting the television getting ready to go there off the Navy Pier in Chicago. So that is the start of season 4, and we'll get into that after we do John Emmett's report. And this is our new cover photo that Lily liked. So she sent that. So you got to have a better photo for John.
Yes. I like that. And he looks tan, too.
He looks tan, relaxed. But look at this. This was done tonight. Maybe last night. Maybe it was. But in the golden hour there in the family farm.
Tom, Julia, and all the Fosi. Really nice to be having a quick chat with you. You probably can't tell from my background, I'm here at Imberhorn Farm, and it's these early starts, late nights. You can probably tell it's the golden hour. Now, I was thinking I'd really like to be in Weymouth, and I was worried that I was going to be missing a lot of the action at the Moth Worlds. And the thing that makes sailing such a wonderful sport is the weather. We're not always running the same 100 metres day in, day out. Every race course is different, and the weather is what makes it interesting. In fact, with long championships, I always think you have the most worthy winner when you get a range of conditions. And that's why I personally like, a regatta champion rather than a winner takes it all race. The Moths, unfortunately, they appear to have been very, very unlucky. Now, I think the thing with this is it's the same for everybody. So there's a lot of frustration, and I think everybody would like to have more races completed. In fact, it's funny, we have a lot of these cliches, and the reason they're true is because they happen so often. You go to a venue, the locals, and I'm including myself in this, say, well, it's never normally like this. We even had it, I was race officer for a Wednesday evening race, and, the sea breeze came in for us at 7 p.m, whereas the Moths had no racing at all in a day. And they've tried so hard, the committee, looking at 8 o'clock starts. You've got to remember, and it's one of my key themes, that we're really grateful for the volunteers. And if you're volunteering to do a regatta, you're probably thinking 10, 11 o'clock starts, not 8 o'clock in the morning. So I think it's fair to say the Moth Fleet have probably done a pretty good tour of all of Portland now. And it happened in 2012. It was a very unusual June, the last real training month before the Olympic Games. It was the wettest on record. So unfortunately, we don't seem to be covering ourselves with glory. And I could be wrong, I'll chat about this next week, but it looks like South Westerly's return as soon as the Moth Fleet ends. And it looks like Sunday, which will be the pack up, not only for the Moths, but for myself, is going to be pretty wet. But yeah, I'm at the farm, as you can probably tell from the background aeroplane. There's, however, lots of sailing news, and at the time of recording this, I think the big interest for me is the Ocean Race. I find it really hard still not to call it the Whitbread or the Volvo, the Ocean Race. I think the media coverage for this has been really good, and these long races, it's nice to have something there to follow, and I feel that they're getting closer to home now, and I think it's something that a lot of elite sailors will do in their life. They do Olympics, they do a sort of round the world, and they do the high performance boats. The other thing is the Sail GP. It's all about the racing, and I think having that one design and very high performance it's an awesome combination. I mean, I love the America's Cup, but it's really when we get down to brass tacks and the racing that interests me more than the other stuff that's going on in the background. And of course, in terms of Olympic circuit, we have the Marseille test event, which is probably the first indicator of people we would expect to be medaling at next year's Olympic Games. So with that thought in mind, if you haven't done already, please do share. Comments welcome, and I'll do my best to see you on the show.
John Emmett, and he recorded that last evening, not today, but yesterday his time, because I had it before I went to bed last night. That never happens. Usually I wake up and his report comes through. But we appreciate it. Whenever it comes, we appreciate it very much. And another terrific, thoughtful report from the Coach's Corner from John Emmett. But before we get to the closing for this segment, he also directed me to some photos. I tried to get Lily, who's there at the ocean race, covering it for, I think, for CNTV. I'm not 100% sure, Chinese national television. She's covering it for somebody in China. And John told me nobody gives a fig about the ocean race. Nobody did, at least outside of the sailing world, until the crash.
Yeah.
And suddenly Chinese national television said, we want to cover this, get us some stuff. And apparently she's become very busy, not just giving tours to kids, as she was helping out with that. She also got, in previous days, she got a ride, was driving with 11th Hour Racing out on their boat during the media VIP days, got a little bit of a commemorative medal and a nice shirt. The Lily Zhu, famously good sailor, gold medalist in 2012 when John was her coach, now her husband. And she also took these photos. I pulled these off her Instagram page this morning. That's Charlie not amused after the crash yesterday. And there she is, trying to comfort Benjamin Dutroux, who we've all known is quite distraught, as you would be, as anybody would be.
Yeah.
And she is now on a plane headed from Heathrow to Hong Kong, John told me this morning. And I don't know if that's presumably to do more television work. And maybe covering the rest of this race and the finale of this race in Genoa when they get there. So maybe that's why she's on the road again. Maybe that's why John is all gussied up now.
Looks good.
The wife leaves and he gets all gussied up. I don't know. And I guess Jeff Ogle saying clean shaven, it's a drink. Apparently that's the drinking clue for that. But that's John's regular report. John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. We appreciate very much Olympic coach John Emmett. And he likes to say, Julio,
like, follow, and share.
Go ahead.
No, because your buddies want to know about this.
Well, exactly. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. And you always say that at the end of the show, and John says it at the beginning of the show. Although we're now an hour and 8 minutes into the show today with all of this breaking news that we've had. The Moth Worlds, which are going on in his hometown in Weymouth, or his recently adopted hometown. He's been living there for some time. He literally lived there. And the Moths have had a tough go. This video I'm about to show you is from yesterday. In fact, it's from Wednesday. What day is this? No, it's from yesterday. Thursday. No, it was from Wednesday because they had no racing yesterday, John told me this morning. I'm going to try to get this right. And I think one fleet, they're split into, because there's so many boats, 130 boats, they're split into, 3 or 4 fleets. And one of them got a race off this morning, very early in the morning, because they're fighting. They got a northeaster, which is fighting the normal southwester sea breeze. As Pindar says, they're all headed to Garda anyway for foiling week, and they'll have regular good breeze there on Lake Garda. It blows out of the north in the morning, out of the south in the afternoon, almost every day in the summertime at Lake Garda, as many of you will know. But here's a nice video about the racing that did take place on day 3, which was Wednesday, at the Moth Worlds in Weymouth, running through Sunday.
It's day 3 of the Wetsuit Outlet and Zyke International Moth World Championships. The fleet has got up with the Sparrows. We've got an 8 a.m. start, but the main thing we've got is breeze, 15 knots, gusting 18, and the glorious sight of international moths foiling around Portland Harbour.
Well, I had to wake up early. The wind was pretty fresh when we get out, but when it started to fade out and during the race was just a matter of keep on forward. Yeah, and I was okay, quite okay. Just some mistakes, but I hope it get better.
I was fortunate and unfortunate at the same time. I started off just about okay, like on the fours and stuff, but going the wrong way. And then headed downwind and it was all fine. Got to the lure mark just about foiling when everyone else started low riding. And then again at the finish, lots of people were low riding. I managed to just kind of swoop past them, which was pretty exciting. So I gained some good points back from that at least. So I've come from the Wasp, that's like my previous background, and I'm taking a stab at the Moth class for this event. You know, having the openness of the class, you know, there's so many ideas bouncing about, and it's amazing hearing about all the kind of, you know, the tech that people are running and different foils, sails. It's just been a super awesome experience so far.
I think in general the level of the racing is quite high, and the speed also, like once the fleet is gone, it's not that easy anymore to catch up. You really want to make sure that you get the starts right.
We're at the end of day 3 and we finally have racing in the book, albeit not too much of it as the wind died after the first 3 races held early in the morning. Overall, in Yellow Fleet, we have a tie at the top on 6 points. In Blue Fleet, who only managed 1 race, we had Kiwi Jacob Pye win the race, Germany's Philip Bull came second, and Australia's Jack Ferguson finished third. We are really hoping that tomorrow we get some breeze in and can catch up on the schedule.
Okay, well, I commend it to you. There are a lot of videos that John has done with some of those people on the leaderboard. I guess there's only the 2 fleets, the Blue Fleet and the Yellow Fleet.
Yeah.
Anybody from Michigan, a fan
Yeah,
of
we
the
remember
University of
that,
Michigan,
yes.
or of UC Berkeley or UCLA, whose school colors are blue and gold or blue and yellow.
Yes.
Where did I come up with that when we're all wearing green today, Julia?
I don't know.
It's underway. The racing is underway in Australia. Why am I not surprised? Leading over Canada GBR in that race. Go watch it. It's live on YouTube, so that's really nice to see here.
In Australia?
Australia and Canada. Australia's leading Canada. Ben Ainsley, Great Britain, is third. Then New Zealand down the leaderboard. While we continue here, we're going to do a segment now. This is really an AAAA. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. He's
Justin Toon, he just came on board.
Who did?
Alistair.
Did he just?
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Alistair. We're at Saturday morning down there in Sydney, and in Melbourne, it's what time? 07:13. He's getting up late. He usually gets up at 5 o'clock.
I know.
Goes for bike rides.
He slept in.
Slept in. He deserves it. Anyway, this is and I debated, you know, this is a serious matter with Sir James that he's passed away. Should we do the music and the naval band? But you know what? I think Sir James would have loved it. So we do it. This is the Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote, and it's in commemoration of and a tribute to Sir James. Now, as you know, Alistair is also president of Australian Sailing, and they issued this release yesterday. Sailing in Australia has lost one of its most loved identities, with Sir James Hardy OBE passing away in Adelaide, aged 90. An absolute colossus of the sport, Hardy inspired a generation of Australian sailors after competing in and winning many of sailing's most prestigious races. Quote, there will never be another Sir James, said Australian President Alistair Murray. Quote, his contribution to the sport cannot be understated. He was beloved by everyone he met and could not have given more of himself to driving the success of sailing in Australia and beyond, I might add. Personally, he was my hero, and I was proud to call him my friend. On behalf of Australian Sailing, I would like to share our sadness at the news and pass our condolences to his family and the many sailing friends he made along the way. That's the official press release from. Isn't that nicely worded?
It's nice.
Just beautifully
Yes.
worded by Alistair and his PR people. There's some nice photos here. We've actually aired these before on the show, but some great photos. That's Rob Brown on the left. This photo, I call it Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Yeah.
Rob Brown, who was with Australia too when they won the Cup in 1983, famously good sailor. Alistair in the middle, of course, and Sir James, gentleman Jim, on the right. I don't know when that photo was taken. It's obviously at a party at a yacht club somewhere fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more recent, I think. This is 2022, and Sir James was with Alistair at Sail GP in Sydney, I believe 2022. I believe that was last year. Nice photo.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, where there was yacht racing going on, especially at an international level, Julie, as you said, the 6 meters, the 12 meters, Sail GP, he would be there. And famously cool guy that he was. And here is the official AAAA for today.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey. This is AAAA, Alistair's Awesome Aussie Anecdote, and it's a bit of a sad occasion for us here in Australia. I'm going to speak today about the passing of a legend of Australian sailing, of the sport in our country, somebody that will be absolutely sorely missed. I'm talking about Sir James Gilbert Hardy, OBE, one of a kind. And the name Gilbert, that was his middle name, and I was proud later in life to be able to call him that. He said, you just call me Gilbert. And that was for his inner circle, I think. He was age 90, so he lived a great innings, and what a life he led as a successful businessman, raconteur, and obviously a legend as a sailor. He had the moniker, or earned the moniker, Gentleman Jim. And there was every reason why he deserved that, because he was, above everything else, a gentleman at all times. His sailing career was, I guess the highlights of it were his 505 World Championship, his Admiral's Cup involvement, where he was part of winning Admiral's Cup teams, and then, of course, as an America's Cup sailor, where he participated in a number of America's Cups, including being part of the winning team of Australia too in 1983. Not on the actual boat, but absolutely part of the winning team and the reserve helmsman. He was knighted. He was knighted in 1981. I think an OBE in the late 70s, perhaps in 84, and knighted in 1981. Now, how many sailors get knighted? Not too many. In fact, he's the only one that I know of. Perhaps Sir Russell Coutts was another one, and Sir Ben Ainslie, but there are a select few. He's also in the Australian Sailing Hall of Fame, and I could go on and on about his accolades and achievements, but it would take too long. I first met him when I was 20 years old. You know, we say the sport of sailing needs more heroes. I first met him in 1981, I guess, when I was, would have been, when I was 20 years old. And I was at a sailing workshop, seminar, live-in weekend, and Sir James was there as one of the trainers. And we had a match race set up for the legends of sailing versus the people who'd gone along there to the sailing school. And I was drawn to sail against Sir James Hardy in a laser, in match racing. I couldn't wait to get out in the water with him. Unfortunately, it was blowing out, so I never got to find out whether I was able to beat Sir James Hardy or not. And that was my chance missed, I guess. I then got to meet him later in life at the International Sailing Summit, which, Tom, you had plenty to do with. And I'll never forget sitting at a table one day with Sir James Hardy, Buddy Melgers, and Hans Fogg, and thinking, boy, how lucky can you get to sit here with your absolute heroes, because they were all heroes of mine. He became my friend, and I was very proud of that. And we actually, the last time I saw him is when we went to the Sail GP together and out on a boat together and watched that, and that was just last year. And he was in fine form. To sum him up, he was friendly. He was interested. Always interested in what you were doing, and really went out of his way to ask questions about your life and take a real interest in other people and how they were going. And he was interesting because of his own life, and he was a great raconteur. He had plenty of stories to tell, and of course he was exceedingly successful. The Australian sailing family here will miss Sir James greatly. He was very much the grandfather of our sport, a mentor to many, a great friend, and an absolute legend. Just somebody that can't be replicated and that we may never see again. So I don't know, it's hard to know what else to say. But I will close out by saying that, as I said, the world needs more heroes. He was my hero. When I was a teenager, I'd lie awake at night listening to the America's Cup being beamed in on the radio, and Sir James was steering the boat. He was my hero. And I got to meet my hero, and I got to call him my friend. And it's been a very important part of my life. So I'm really thrilled to have known him and sorry to see him go. So to Sir James, Gilbert, you've crossed the bar. You're leaving an amazing legacy, and many people will miss you greatly around the world. And I know it's not just Australia, it's sailors all around the world. So cheers to Sir James and Vale. Bye.
I think Sir James would have enjoyed this music, as I said at the top of this segment.
Yeah.
What a fabulous memory.
Yes.
Tribute.
Yes, very
elegant.
Yeah.
The guy is, you talk about a guy who's also a lot of hero to a lot of people, to a lot of people, and a raconteur. He said I had a lot to do with the sail. I didn't have a lot to do. I spoke at one or two of them, I think, but he organized those for years and got the industry together with leading officials from IWRU, ISAF, and clubs and classes. And Alistair's just a fabulous fixture. We're lucky, Julia, to have him
absolutely
as a friend.
Yes,
and on
absolutely.
this show with the others that contribute regularly. Waltzing Matilda, the Royal Naval Band of Australia. Sail GP is going on. The Aussies they're on leg 5 of 6, and the Aussies have a commanding lead as they're going to round that mark and head over to the finish line. So they are going to win the first race they're going to go through the gate rather, and then go over to the finish line. So bravo Zulu to them. Speaking of Aussies and great sport, there's some people that are cheering them on. We're just going into our segment about the Sail GP Season 4, which is underway, as you can plainly see and you will know, in Chicago at the Navy Pier. A good natural arena. Looks like they have a very nice crowd there. Tune in on YouTube, or if you're in the Midwest or happen to be passing through, go have a look. It looks like Slingsby's winning, has won. And Sir Ben's moved up to second, and O Canada, Phil Robertson is in third, the Kiwis fourth, the Danes fifth. Germany in their inaugural regatta, their brand new team. It looks like Germany's going to finish sixth. French are seventh, Spanish eighth, and Jimmy Spithill, bloody hell, Jimmy Spithill is in ninth, and the Swiss back at the bottom in 10th. So tough times for them. So go watch it on YouTube and go follow it if you're in Chicago. Go down there. It's today between 2 and 4 local time. Between 4 and 6 local time, Chicago. And same time tomorrow. There are 10 teams, including newcomer Germany, we've been telling you about. And the Canadian teams for sale, apparently Mr. Pye, Fred Pye, who bought the team, brought them into the league, has not continued for whatever reason. One assumes financial, but that team is for sale. The league has taken the team back, if anybody's looking for a team. We asked Julie if she wanted to buy that.
Oh, and I just decided I had other things to do.
Well, you could buy that with your pocket change. The change in your couch upstairs in the Commodore Suite here.
Of course.
The Beach Street Yacht Club. Now, I'm also pleased to report that Jenny Tulloch is there. She's on the television, filling in for one of the other telecasters, the announcers, commentators, and she did this interview. Remember when Russell, we ran the Russell report the other day, and Russell said, oh, yeah, they're trying to poach people from the Australian team. Other teams are apparently trying to poach sailors, including Kinley Fowler. Well, Jenny Tulloch, our Fozy, who's been on the show a couple, 3 times, caught up with Kinley and had this interview.
I feel like there's a rumor about some poaching between season 3 and season 4. What was happening there?
No comment. No, I think there's been some interest from other teams to try and get a few people from our team and move them in. But fortunately, we've got the exact same everyone, shore team, everything. So we're pretty happy going into this season.
Okay, well, that's a quick, pithy update from Jenny. And
it's exactly what you wanted to know.
Exactly. Exactly right. So the nice thing. Now, here's one from Sir Ben. We told you about this as well on, I guess it was Tuesday, maybe even last Friday, that the television rights for SailGP in the UK have gone to, I couldn't remember then if it was going to ITV or from ITV, but the good news is it is to ITV. That is, the TV rights have moved over to ITV in Great Britain, which means you can watch it live, free to air. And this is Ben's announcement of that.
That's great.
Yesterday.
We're really excited about the announcement of ITV as the official UK broadcaster for SailGP. As we go into this new season 4 of SailGP, we're expecting more action, more events, and a big uptick in the audience. And the fact that the ITV footage is free to air is only going to help build that audience. So look forward to a really exciting new season with SailGP on ITV.
On ITV. Sir Ben with Emirates GBR. And I thought, I was looking around for a kickoff video, some kind of a video that was maybe produced by SailGP, but instead I found one by Rolex.
Oh, yeah?
That was released this morning just before we went to air. I love it. Have a look at this beautiful video.
They're not pilots.
They're not
though
pilots.
They can tame gravity with just the power of the wind. They're not scientists, though they master the chemistry on board. They're not dreamers, except for their profound belief that whoever doesn't fall can fly. Welcome to the SailGP Global Championship.
Nice.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
Okay, SailGP Rolex, and there's the results of that first race. Jimmy in 9th. Tommy Slingsby leading, so it's a day for the Aussies. As we honor Sir James and a couple others. Nice stuff. So that's going on in Chicago. The weekend schedule, as we said, it's sometime, depending upon, I think, time zones for television. But I think to cater to those of you down under, that's why they're racing Friday, Saturday, unless there's something going on in Chicago on Sunday we don't know about. That would preclude them from racing. But again, race time's 4 to 5:30 Central Time, which is 2 to 4 here. On the West Coast, it's 2100 to 2230 UTC, both today and tomorrow, as they're getting ready for race 2. A repeat of last year. Jimmy Spithill is being interviewed there. As we move forward in today's show, number 600, what is it, 27? 626? I can't remember, Julia. Is it 626? 620. It is 627. Speaking of SailGP, I thought this was apropos SailGP, this day in history on the 16th of June. Do you know, Julia, what happened in 1977 on this day in history? And it's related to SailGP and our beloved sport, tangentially. Here's your first clue. That's your second clue. I already gave you a clue.
Yes.
And you know who that is.
I do.
That is LJE.
Larry Ellison.
So you still don't know what happened. Here's another clue. That's Larry on the right.
Is it?
Yes.
My gosh.
Those are the founding fathers
of Oracle.
On the 16th of June, 77. Software Development Laboratories, as it was originally called. They were created in Santa Clara. That's a typo. California, by Larry, Bob Miner, and Ed Oates. I don't know who there's one other gentleman there. By 78, the first ever Oracle was born, written in that Oracle, that is the software written. It was a relational database written in assembly language running on a PDP-11 under our blah, 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 or only 128K of memory.
Wow.
you have way more than that on your watch.
Mhm.
These days. Oracle version 1 was never officially released, and the implementation separated Oracle code from user code. Oracle was christened thus as it was the code name of
CIA.
Yes, they got a government contract to do a relational database for the CIA, and it was called codename Project Oracle. And they changed the name then. Once that thing became a deal, they changed it to Oracle Corp later on. But founded this day, 16th of June, 1977. And all three of them had previously worked, and it's not Amex Corporation. Again, I don't know where this came from Wikipedia, but there's Crutonicism in this. They all three worked at Ampex, A-M-P-E-X Corporation, not American Express. I can tell you that from memory, from knowing Larry all these years. On this date in history, Oracle Corp is incorporated in Redwood Shores, Santa Clara, down the peninsula from us here in San Francisco. And with that, I want to give a Bravo Zulu to guess whom? LJE, who Forbes is reporting, has in the last couple days overtaken Jeff Bezos as the world's third richest person. Third richest person in the world. Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison became the third richest in the world Wednesday, according to Forbes calculations. This because the Oracle stock price has gone through the roof, eclipsing because of AI and work that they're doing in AI, eclipsing rival tech mogul Jeff Bezos as shares of Ellison Software Company soars to all-time highs. Thanks to Oracle stock, nearly 5% jump here in the last few days. Ellison's net worth jumped 4% to 100. You didn't believe me when I told you.
I know.
Pre-show. $152 billion, leaving Amazon founder Bezos $149 billion fortune in the. I wouldn't call that leaving them in the dust.
No, I wouldn't
mean,
either.
excuse me. That's $3 billion. That's among these guys. That's that's
chump change. It's
that's
not
dinner
chump
money.
change. Yeah.
It's the first time Ellison has ever been the third wealthiest person on the earth, save for a brief period. Tuesday, Ellison is about $45 billion richer than he was just 2 months ago, as Oracle shares have staged a 45% rally on the back of the AI craze, the artificial intelligence craze. Ellison declared Oracle to be the #1 provider of generative AI software on Monday on their quarterly call. He and Safra Katz, whom I've also gotten to know, and she's the titular CEO. He is the CTO, Chief Technical Officer, and Executive Chairman. But they're going from strength to strength. Do you have any Oracle? You have any Oracle stock?
Yes.
Good for you.
Not a lot, but I have some.
Good for you. Well, and if you have some Tesla stock, that's probably a good thing right now too.
I'm not buying Tesla stock.
You're not? Tesla's going north.
But I don't like Tesla.
And Gordon Smith is saying, but Bezos had to pay a divorce settlement. Well, Larry did too. And Ed Worley saying minus the $300 million he spent on the AC. Well, Ed, my back of the envelope calculation is that he spent north of $1 billion on Sayonara. My thumb up here.
Yeah.
Sayonara, the America's Cup, and now Sail GP. So Bravo Zulu to him. That's why I give him a Bravo Zulu. I mean, I celebrate anybody who is like Julia. Julia is very successful financially and has been. And well, you know, you're doing okay.
I'm doing okay.
And you know, your 401k is down a bit with the market, but the market's coming back. It was
eventually.
How about Rivian, Julia? Alan Long wants to know. Rivian's the other big EV company. I saw Rivian over in the parking lot at St. Francis last night. But Bezos, Larry's had to pay a few settlements too of that ilk, Gordon Smith. The money is worth nothing if it's not being circulated. Great point, Graham Sweeney. In fact, do you remember what Ted Turner said about the America's Cup? This is way back when. He said, the America's Cup is the greatest income redistribution program ever invented by anybody other than the federal government. Because you take the money from the rich and give it to the poor sailmakers, the poor boat builders, the poor sailors.
Right.
Ted Turner. Great guy. Bravo Zulu, Larry. Congratulations. Now, do you know who's ahead of him in the list? Who's 1 and 2?
Buffett?
No, he's down.
Oh, he's way down.
He's down.
No.
Bernard Arnault, who owns LVMH, another America's Cup fund. I believe he's number 2.
Yeah.
And back on top of the heap, speaking of Tesla and SpaceX and others, is Mr. Elon Musk. He's number 1. I believe he's back on top. With Tesla stock having also gone up considerably. Went up another 3% today, I think. That brings us to cool people and a Fuzzy Focus for today. Speaking of the Fuzzy Fozzy, who's checking in, did check in earlier today from the Noroton Yacht Club. The beautiful Noroton Yacht Club in Darien, Connecticut. There's a brand new regatta, the inaugural Sinclair Women's Championship. It's a fleet race that's being umpired, and they have got 12 top teams there racing. And our Rick Bannerow is over there covering it for us, that regatta, well, we haven't told you anything about it. Maybe those of you up in that corner of our country know, but it's a terrific new event. Noroton Yacht Club is hosting the inaugural Susan Widman Sinclair Women's Championship, an umpired fleet race regatta to include a dozen of the country's top women sailors sailed in the club's fleet of sonars. The 2023 event will be sailed today, tomorrow, and Sunday on Long Island Sound on the Connecticut shore. The quote, "The Sinclair Women's Championship is something our club," meaning Noroton Yacht Club, "has wanted to do for some time," noted Noroton Commodore Bobby Lawrence. And Bobby Lawrence is, I'm pretty sure, is a woman. With the increasing support of women's regattas, both nationally and at Noroton, this is a great way for us to use our fleet of sonars to increase opportunity for top women's sailors. So bravo Zulu also to Noroton Yacht Club and to Bobby Lawrence, Commodore Lawrence. They have a terrific group. This is a video, an interview that our Fuzzy Fozzy that Rick did. I don't know if it was last night or this morning. I think it was this morning. And these are 4 of the top young female sailors in this country. There's 12 teams, as I mentioned, including the Cowles twins. Emma is on the left, crewing normally for, what's that little R? That should be, I guess when I do R in a parenthesis, it comes out with the registered logo. That means to be R, meaning Carmen on the right. And they are top collegiate sailors. The 2 of them have been blowing the men and women out of the water in the 420 class and elsewhere. And here's a quick interview done by Rick Bannerow, I believe, earlier today.
Greetings, Fozzy. Greetings, Tom and Julia. Rick Bannerow here, the Fuzzy Fozzy, doing a live from the dock report. We are in AP. It is glassy calm. We may get out in the next hour or so for the Sinclair Regatta, the first women's regatta for Noroton Yacht Club in a fleet race umpired. We have 12 women's teams with 12 really unique and special skippers who formed their teams for this event. We've got 3 days of racing. We've got terrible weather in front of us, but I'm going to turn this over to the ladies that have to sail this and let them introduce themselves and see what they're looking forward to. Right, here we go. Carmen, who are you?
Hello, my name is Carmen Coles. I'm the skipper for my boat, and here are my teammates. Hi, I'm Riley Legault. I'm doing jib on the boat. Hi, I'm Brooke Anderson. And I'm Emma Coles. I am her twin sister, and we're sailing for Larchmont Yacht Club.
That's right. We're not seeing double.
No, we're not seeing double.
Obviously, it's been a great college sailing year for you two. You roll into this event. What does it mean to have this kind of event for women?
Okay, well, I'd say it's really encouraging to have more and more opportunities in sailing. It's definitely something that we both look forward to, and I think all of us can say. Just the fact that we have more opportunities to sail against women who are older as well as younger than us, and that intergenerational aspects that the sport of sailing brings, it's super encouraging, as well as just like sharing that experience with others, and it's a very welcoming environment.
Very cool. Now, you said you're going to be running some clinics for juniors this summer. You're going to do the 470 Worlds. What else is on the docket?
Well, for the 2 of us, we are still in college, so we have 2 more years of college sailing at Yale with our team. And what
I took a little time off to start a family, and so now I'm kind of getting back into it, which is really nice. So I'm just happy to be back and honored to be
So
here.
this is kind of Team Larchmont. You have familiar with Long Island Sound and flooding tides and light air. How does that factor into today, tomorrow, and Sunday sailing?
Well, I think one of the main things that we've learned over the years is there's a lot of waiting on land, as we're doing right now. So just patience, and honestly, all these moments that you have on land, you can also, that's how you get to know people, and it's actually how we became friends with a lot of the people that we're actually racing against now. So.
That's terrific. Thank you. Good luck out there, and stay as dry as you can with the weather we're going to be fighting. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Rick Bannerow with his first video.
That was
He's
nice.
going to be doing a John Emmett or an
Yeah.
Alistair Murray for us. So we've got Europe, or at least the UK. And as John moves around Europe, and we've got Australia covered with Alistair.
Yep.
And now we've got the Northeast.
Yes.
At least Long Island Sound
Long
and
Island,
beyond.
yes.
Covered by Rick Bannerow. Appreciate that
That's
very
super.
much.
Yeah.
Great gals, great racing up there, and we'll look forward to seeing how that event goes. Now, I've just got, speaking of Alistair, just got a note. That was a nice interview, Gordon Smith saying yes. Nice report. Thank you, Ed Willie. Bannerow is on. Rick saying, replying to Steve Atkins, nope, abandoned first race before the weather rolled in. I guess a little unsettled in the Northeast today. Jeff Ogle signing out. He has a great weekend. Thanks, Jeff. Alistair saying, Tom, give a shout out to Paul Pasco. Paul Pasco. Julia, I knew him when he was a little kid. I mean, it seemed like he was a very bright computer guy. And Paul Henderson tells the story better than I, but in 1996 in Savannah, I believe it was, maybe 92 in Barcelona, but I think it was 96 in Savannah. Paul Pasco saved the day when IBM, who were doing the result service for the entire Olympics, completely wet the bed. In fact, they shat the bed. IBM did. So all the other sports venues in Atlanta, where I'm pretty sure it was 96. Paul, they'll give me a comment here. But not Paul Pasco. Paul and another person or two in our sport saved the day by doing their own bespoke scoring system, pulling it out. You know, this is 96. We barely had laptops then and just barely internet connections and so on. Now, you did, Julie, because you were way advanced and at Stanford and that whole DARPA thing that you were involved with. So Pasco saved the day. Paul got the whole thing organized. We were the only sport for a while. IBM finally got their result service back up, but I think we relied on Paul the whole rest of the time in Savannah for sailing. He was in Savannah.
Just for sailing.
Sailing Olympics were in Savannah when the main Olympics, I call them the main Olympics, but the other Olympics venues were in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So tell me if we'll look at the comments and they'll correct me if I'm wrong. But terrific guy. Pasco's the past Commodore, either the current Commodore or past Commodore of a pretty fancy yacht club there in Melbourne, of which obviously he's together right now at 7:30 in the morning. I think it's 7:30 down there with Alistair Murray. So good Saturday morning to both of you. And thanks, Paul, for checking in. Nice to have you on the show with us. We'll switch to the America's Cup then. An AC-37 Cup date. And I've just got one video. Frankly, it's the only video. I looked at the others, but it's the best video of those that have been posted of late. And I thought we should check in with Alinghi, which, by the way, any number of other people are starting to chime in, as we talked about in the pre-show, are starting to say, hey, you know what? These guys, they're foil guys, they're aero package, they're hydro package, they're sails. They're starting to look pretty flash. And I've been saying all along, don't count them out.
Since the beginning, you've been saying
Since the beginning.
Yeah.
AC-37 Cup date with Alinghi in Barcelona.
We're here with Arthur Servais, member of the power group on board Alinghi Red Bull Racing. So according to a social media post just before sailing, the plan for the day was sail and foil testing. You had Yves Courvoisier and Julien Pilat on the boat. What were you focusing on specifically?
It's quite interesting for us to have some engineer coming on board, get the feeling of the boat. They can see how they react really in real life, and they can have a better feel than just simulation that they can have in the office. Like Dean Barker were with us as well, so light wind as you have seen beginning of the day. So it was pretty good for us to start with those towing and get the feeling to those engineers. Like that, we saw they can come back with a better idea to us later on the project.
Brilliant, so I'm sure that fills in quite nicely into the simulator. Does it make a big difference having them on board and their feedback to get on the sim?
For sure, yeah. The goal is to have a simulator that is as close as the reality as possible. So having the guys working on it is super important, that they get the reality feeling of the boat and try to transfer it as best as possible on the machine. So, obviously.
Have you been training on the simulator?
Yeah, I did quite a lot of simulator, mostly beginning of the projects, and now it's depend a little bit daily program, but yeah.
So, as a cyclo, what are you training on the sim? Are you matching power requirements, feeding that into the sim, or are you doing other stuff such as jib trimming or?
As we are depend a little bit the skills that we all have, we can use the simulator at different level of testing, but we have some rower with us that never have sailed before. So sometimes we just to bring them to sailing in a different way and make them understanding some more of the sailing, more for internal competition as well. And after for development, we get more solid feedback.
And is there a difference between the front cyclo and the rear cyclo?
They are both cyclors giving the best of what they can, so I would say not really.
Is there any other functions that they'd be doing on the boat? Maybe a difference, one that has a better view of the jib, for example?
This cycling position are something on this boat. We don't know yet how it's going to be on the next one, so it's super hard to imagine what's going to look like, but we're still trying to explore the possibility of the cyclist on board and how we can be the best and what we can do. We're changing a lot of things, so constantly, so trying to get the best feedback of that.
And how different is the boat from, let's say, a month ago, to now? For example, flight control systems, cyclo systems.
Actually, not much.
This is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts when they ask these. No one's going to tell what anything what the guy wants of interest. But here we'll listen in for a sec.
Competition coming soon in Villanova. So priority have just moved for a couple of days, so it was more in this area that we had to work.
Perfect. Thank you for the time.
With pleasure.
Okay, but don't count them out, right, Julia?
Right.
They are looking better and better, and they've got more time and grade there in Barcelona by far than any of the other teams, obviously. Just checking in when they're in the leg 5 now of 6 of the second race at SailGP, and it's the Canadians are leading. They are leading, so Phil Robertson having another good race. The Aussies are back in the middle. Kiwis are up in second, it looks like. The French in third, and Jimmy Spithill is in DFL. He's in 10th. What the hell is going on, Jimmy?
I don't know.
Dip in there to those races going on in Chicago. Stop with the spoilers, Steve Grew is saying. Well, you can watch it. You got to update our people who are not going to watch it. Max loves the simulator. He's on it all the time with many different types of racing. Who are they talking about? Max who? Verstappen, I suppose. There's F1 weekend in Canada, in Montreal this weekend, if I remember well. And by the way, that's one of the M's. People like, Julia, they like the 3 M's, Melbourne, Monaco, and Montreal. When I was doing F1 and flying to every freaking race around the world every other weekend from tell me when, it was a long season, but a good fun. I learned a lot, met a lot of good people, and had a lot of fun, and was paid decently as well. Okay, I'm happy to be back in sailing, though. Yeah. I'm not a petrol head. I'm not a motorhead.
Yeah, and your salary's not quite as big.
My salary now is not quite as big. That's for sure. That is for sure. Well, I'm retired. Semi-retired. It's the patrons. Was that to get the patrons patronage thing? And yeah, without the help of the patrons, we'd be destitute, more destitute than we already are. We are to the last leg, thank goodness, because we are babbling on here.
Yes.
And the last leg to Gloucester. Morris Stevens, if you're still watching, this is in your honor. That picture, we can keep it. What a great wrap video from the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda.
The Giorgio Armani Super Yacht Regatta is really a fun event. It's a mix of, you know, spirited competition, but also having a great time.
Great for the club to host those events, and Porto-Cervo is the best event for super yacht sailing.
They're doing a good job as well. They're all very good sailors, you know, beautiful boats.
You know, this is why we come to Porto-Cervo, is to do that race. And it was just great breeze, great weather, great competition.
The social area was really good. I just mentioned we really enjoyed the beach party.
Enjoying, dancing, drinking, eating, and then coming back to the race mode and doing the sunset sailing, so beautiful, and so it was completely enjoyable.
I've never been to Porto-Cervo.
It was 3 perfect days of racing, of going around the islands in Costa Smeralda. Is something wonderful, really, really, truly wonderful to see. And with Giorgio Armani, we have a partner that shares these values, and I am very convinced that we will be better every single year, and that we will create events that everybody will love to participate in and come to Costa Smeralda and Yacht Club Costa Smeralda.
We had a fantastic week. The results were surprising to us. We came in here definitely not expecting to come away with a first position.
Marco and Francesca are over the moon. They have been in the super yachts for a long time and haven't won for a little while. So it was nice to have a victory.
You said you've never been, but wouldn't you like to go?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And you know Michael Ilbrook from
Yes.
John Kostecki's
Yes.
Ilbrook Around the World campaign that he won as skipper
Yes.
with Michael Ilbrook and
Ilbrook,
that team.
I saw Ilbrook quite a bit. He actually became a member of the St. Francis because he loved it so much.
Harry and I, Gordon Smith says, Harry's one of his sons, I have a YCCS t-shirt bought for us by Jess Graham Hansen, who's a fabulous Danish sailor, match racer, and big boat sailor, and so on. Nice video. Thank you to Giorgio Armani for providing. I mean, it's just the place. I've been there I don't know how many times. And it's one of the nicest places in the world to go yachting.
Yes.
Even just to hang out.
Yes.
Going there in the shoulder season when it's a little cooler and there's not so many crowds, but it's expensive enough that it keeps the ice cream and t-shirt people away.
Mhm.
Newport, Rhode Island's become a bit of that of late. The
Yes.
ice cream and t-shirt.
There's nothing wrong with ice cream.
No, well, you love ice cream, and you're getting a lot. I think my mother is too, right about now. So
Good.
thanks to YCCS and to Giorgio Armani for that Super Yacht Regatta video. Apparently, a fun time was had by all. So I'm not going to tell, since I don't want. Oh, there's a nice shot of the stadium. Oh, the race results. I won't tell you that Canada won that second race and where everybody else is. I will tell you that Jimmy was last. I don't know what is going on. Several of you have collected. I was reading Julie Aaron's comment. I think perhaps you are right. The fire in his belly has certainly left him just collecting his paycheck. I think she's talking about Dean Barker, who's coaching Alinghi. I think he will be a big help, Julie. I think he's a superb coach. There she is. There's Jenny Tulloch, our Fozy. Nice to see her on there. I hope they keep her going. She's fabulous.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be a big help, Julie Aarons. That is, Dean Barker is a coach for Alinghi.
Yeah, that would be great.
And we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. Gloucester, they're making the joke about when the Russians, that movie, the Alan Arkin movie, the Russians are coming. Don't they land in Gloucester with their ship, their big Navy ship or their submarine, whatever it was. Finish line. We were to Tampa, Florida. And the winners of the day are anyone who have ever sailed, hung out with, or simply met Sir James Hardy.
Yes. I love thee.
Look at this. I mean, these people are just having a blast. They're having a glass, just having a nice afternoon on a classic yacht. I don't know where that photo came from, but I immediately saw it. And I said, those people on that boat are the winners of the day. And the rest of us, Julia, anybody, you, myself, Alistair, he was the hero for a lot of us.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just one of the nicest man or woman who graced our beloved sport. Sir James Hardy died at the age of 90 a couple days ago. Losers of the day, well, you can guess. The croutons du jour, no question. You got to keep a lookout, as several of you said at the top of the show, how these guys on Guyot and gals, there's a couple gals on the boat, I think, could port tack another boat in beautiful conditions, not too much wind. Okay, Scuttlebutt and a few others have been roundly critical of the ocean race for running these loop-de-doops before they send them out into the ocean.
Yeah.
But, they got to get some visibility for the sponsors. It's not just this wasn't an import race, as several of you were commenting back and forth. Was this an import? No. This was the start of the leg, 7, from Den Haag, from The Hague, out and around the Iberian Peninsula into the Med and to the finish in Genoa.
Yeah.
And they do a loop-de-doop, they do a couple up and down so that the spectator boats can all enjoy it. Maybe they shouldn't be doing that. Maybe they should be starting them the way the New York Yacht Club starts the Bermuda race. You go out to Castle Hill, which is right out at the end of the East Passage. Put a starting line out there, and the boats start, and they go to Bermuda. So you don't have a big, you start them and then take them back up in Narragansett Bay. Now, they did that for the start in Newport of this of the leg from Newport over to Aarhus. Nobody managed to crash into it. So I don't see what the problem is with doing the loop-de-doop. What I see is the problem, and the croutons du jour are this Guyot environment for not keeping a lookout. I mean, excuse me. Okay, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I just came across a video of this guy, and I don't know if he's still alive for sure. I believe he is, but we got to get him on the show, Julie. I keep saying that.
Yes.
I have one, maybe two today. I can't remember if I stuck a second one in, but Joe Holtzman sent this one. That's a microwave, dear. We don't have a username and a password for it. Joe Holtzman, that is funny. That's one device I can run. Okay, that's not true. Julia's quite technically proficient up there in the Commodore's suite. She's got computers and watches and phones and her what's that ball called? That little Mac. I bought that for you, didn't I? As a Christmas present, the HomePod or whatever that is.
Yeah, that's very handy, and it has very good acoustic.
I have a HomePod here in one of the drawers, and I don't use it. You know why?
Why?
Because if I say, "Hey Siri," the phone goes off, the home pod goes off. If I'm wearing that watch now that I've been trying, it goes off, and it's crotonic. I just can't take it. Okay, we have one more of these. That was from Joe Holtzman. Thank you, Joe. This one is a caption contest from Ted Ryman. Thanks for sending that through. I mean, the guy's got to be a sailor, right?
Right.
And there are times when I wish I had done exactly that in a parking lot when some idiot, especially see the car next to it and how the side of the car appears to be stove in.
Yeah.
And if I parked next to a car like that, I'd probably hang some bumpers and
It's such a good
fenders
idea
out too, right?
I never heard about that. I mean, I never thought about it before, but it's a good idea.
It's a good one. Julie, your witness.
Please like, follow, and share. It's amazing what that does to the numbers we generate, and that's important to us.
Well, it is, and we appreciate it, and we think it helps the sport, basically. Comments are welcome, too, even in replay. We leave comments on. We're one of the few shows that does it. We're one of the few shows live on the internet. This is technically, I guess, a live video podcast, and all their podcasts are all taped.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are not video. There's nothing else in the sport like this.
And no comments.
Well, and they if they do allow comments, a lot of them don't even allow comments real time.
Right.
Because there's too many trolls, but not us. We've got great people. That comment, Julie, was uncalled for. What is that? I don't know what they're talking about. Okay, they're having a bit of a Jeff Waller and so on. That Mocha Sailors parking lot, thanks to all. Well, you guys can sort that out. I think they're talking about Julie, rather. Well, we're not going to get into all that.
I don't know.
But maybe we should turn the comments off, Julie. We're just saying that they're having a bit of a, weeing contest, as Graham Senior might say. Wee, up. Comments are welcome, even in replay. If you're watching in replay, and support us, please, via Patreon. Become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us $1 or $2 or $5 per month. It would be much appreciated. They're getting race 3 underway, so I'm not giving away anything other than they're getting race 3 underway. In Chicago, go have a look at it in replay, and or we'll go watch it live now. Thanks to everybody who gave us images and video and audio for today's show. And guess what, Julia? I have one last quick segment here because Sunday is Father's Day.
That's right.
Happy Father's Day to all of you. Now, it doesn't get celebrated universally around the world. Most countries celebrate it this Sunday, the third Sunday of June. Father's Day has been around in this country for a long time, since the early part of the last century. Father's Day, it's a holiday honoring one's father or relevant father figure, as well as fatherhood, paternal bonds, and the influence of fathers in society. The single most common date among world countries is the third Sunday of June, this Sunday, which was founded in the state of Washington, at least in this country, by somebody called Sonora Smart Dodd in 1910. The Roman Catholic countries prefer St. Joseph's Day, commonly called the Feast of St. Joseph, on the 19th of March. And I remember in Spain we celebrated it on the 19th of March. Though other countries have different dates, including Australia and New Zealand, who do it in September, and the Scandinavians in November, believe it or not. I did that research this morning, so I think that is the case. And wherever in the world you are, if you're a father this weekend, whether you're celebrating it or not, happy Father's Day, especially to my beloved father who just turned 90 a month or so ago and is a past Commodore of our home Portage Yacht Club, and to my dad, Tom Sr., and everybody else. We want to wish you all sunrise to sunset. May your Father's Day be wonderful.
Your dad looks great.
He does. He looks pretty good in that picture. So we'll finish with that. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend. You're already at it down under, obviously. Just getting underway here. Enjoy Sail GP. See you on Tuesday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.